Hello, welcome to another Sonic Lab special. If you've been watching in recent times, you will have seen that we had a product presentation from Elektron and Cenk, aka Dataline, who showed us the RYTM analog drum machine. While he was here, you may have also noticed that we had a load of Elektron equipment about the place. And so we thought we'd shoot a little kind of history of Elektron, and so this is it. And here's Cenk once again.
Hello.
So Elektron have been going since, well, when it started back in '97, right?
Yes, that was the initial start. So in 1997, 3 engineers from Chalmers University started working on a project, and it was a SID station that we have here. Basically, they wanted to have like a SID synthesizer for themselves.
Just to quickly, a SID chip, it was the Commodore C64 sound chip that people, it was kind of a gamer's thing, wasn't it? And lots of mod trackers and stuff used to use to make tunes, and it was quite a powerful device.
Oh, it was great. I mean, if you were born in the 80s or late 70s, then you definitely have heard a Commodore 64 being in action, somebody playing it in your living room or your friends. It was a great machine, and I have very amazing childhood memories from that machine. Yes.
So these guys got together, they started making it as a kind of, well, not a school project, university project. Yes. So they're electronics engineers.
Yes. That's
so what happened next? How did things develop?
Well, they came up with a box. Obviously, it wasn't in this state. And then they thought, oh, maybe we could start selling this. And they decided to reach out over people over a forum on the internet. And those were the days that internet was very early. It was the new times for internet. And interestingly, a lot of people approached Elektron on that forum and said, yes, I would really like this SID station, SID synthesizer to become a reality. And even one of them was like an ex-member of Nine Inch Nails. And so they thought, oh, this is a good idea. So they built 10 units of SID station. And that's how the snowball effect started. And they started selling over internet, which was a very interesting thing at the time.
Yeah, not many people are doing that. Well, nobody was really doing that.
Yeah, it was like, I remember going on first internet in 1996 or something. I don't really remember, but it was around that time. And so it was one of the first maybe companies that decided to sell their products online. And because of this fact, they were able to reach people in Japan, to US, all around the world, rather than just the European market.
So this is the SID station. We have to switch it on. I want to see.
It's a little dangerous beast.
Oh, yes. There we go.
Yeah.
So it actually looks to me.
That's so cool. And here we are.
Still got the same Elektron logo. Nice. It actually looks to me a bit like the sort of thing you have at the front door of an office for the setting of the alarm.
Yeah, it probably could be. You know, you have the calculator here to put your code in, lock your doors and go. And when somebody gets locked, it makes this sound. Oh, somebody's intruding, something like that. Yes.
So what did it do that you couldn't get anywhere else at the time? Let's just have a quick look.
Well, I mean, it's a SID synthesizer. It's the actual the sound engine from the Commodore 64 game console. And here we are. We have like a blank state.
This is good to see Sonic State on the display of a SID station.
Specially prepared, and it's 1998 when it actually hit the streets. So we can start editing it. You know, you have like these pages to go through and edit. So we could go to the oscillator, and you have 3 oscillators that you can turn them on like this. So we'll focus on the first oscillator now. And then you have, pitch, vibrato, pulse width. But we can go on the wave.
Game over, dude.
Yes, it's crashed. River Raid.
It's really nice on the back here that we've got the old style sort of kit DIN plugs for MIDI that are sort of screwed onto the back plate. It's really sort of got a homemade quality to it. But
it's definitely a homemade thing. Yes, it's that feel. So maybe we could like activate the second oscillator. Here we go. And
let's have a listen to the filter as well.
The filter. Let's see where that is. Filter is here. This is
I'm impressed that you actually know how this works. You're giving a very good account of yourself.
Yeah, I am impressed too as well. Yes, I've been reading the manual on the way here. Yeah. So it's another interesting thing that the filter can be assigned to independent oscillators. So you can say, oh, I just want to filter oscillator 2 or 3. So I've activated all the oscillators, and there we go. And now this is the cutoff. Is it here? Yeah.
quite driven, isn't it?
Yeah. And of course, this was an analog filter inside. So if we go back to the oscillator, oscillator 2 ready.
A joy to program, I can see.
Yeah, it's like, you know, doing your monthly bills on a little calculator. How much rent? Oh, here we go. The pitch, so we could maybe assign it.
That's like oscillator sync.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah.
That's nice. This was like a cult, because people realize, oh, this sounds really dirty and weird. I mean, it is actually very weird, and each time I turn this machine on, I don't have it myself, but I use it at the office, I get like, oh, this is a really nice sound, I want to sample it. So I think people were really attracted by that. And then, of course, came the machine drum in 2001. The SID station only was available for around 2 years because of the SID chip wasn't...
Couldn't get them anymore, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you said the machine drum, we should take a look. We've got one over here somewhere.
Yes, that's right.
So let's get it in place.
Yeah, let's do that.
So here it is. This was a kind of complete change of gear, really, for Elektron, wasn't it? I mean, this is a serious product, and it was very deep and introduced the idea of, well, several things at once, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it has a sequencer, it has the parameter locks. When it first appeared, it's a MIDI sequencer as well. You have the inputs. You have a lot of different synthesis types to carve your drum machines sounds.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I reviewed it at the time, and it was the concept of multiple machines, effectively, wasn't it? Which is hence the machine drum, and you could sort of design the sound on a per drum per track basis, and that was kind of something that was actually quite new.
Yeah, especially the combining that feature with the parameter locks per step is a different settings of parameters in that track, so you can create these complex sounds with just like using 1 or 2 tracks, as he's thinking that, oh, he's using 16 tracks or something.
And this, what we've got here, is the UW, right? So it's not the original.
No, this is not the original one. The original first came out in 2001, and it did not feature any sampling or sample playback capability. It was just the drum synthesis inside, and it has 16 tracks. And you have 16 LFOs, you have reverb, delay, compression and an equalizer at the master channel. Each track offers you a drum synthesis type, which there are over like, I think, quite a lot. You have effects like filter, parametric equalizer, amplitude modulation, reverb, delay, distortion, there's a lot of things per track.
And this was kind of, because I remember I had the joy of reviewing it, and I just remember it was so deep, it really sort of blew my mind a bit, and it was quite hard to get your head around. And this was the sort of introduction of the kind of what is the core of the Elektron concept, which is the sequencer and the parameter lock being integrated in the same instrument.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at the latest machine, the analog rhythm, it's the same type of language, the same type of interface that we're still using, and we think that it works really well. It's like the man and machine concept that you are directly transferring your ideas into the machine and into the sequencer. And what was really key point of the Elektron language was that the sequencer is directly tied to the sound design. You don't just create up a kick sound and lay some steps and that's it. You're actually like, you know, making the sound design within the sequence with the parameter locks.
So we should hear it, obviously.
Yeah, we should hear it. I mean, this is like the kick engine.
And this, again, is all digital, isn't it? This is DSP, not analog, but it's
absolutely.
still,
yeah. This is the FM bass drum. Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. And I have like a short sequence here. That's one of my favorite features about this is that with the function button held and twisting your parameters, you're affecting all the 16 tracks. So it's like a very nice performance tool. And when you really mess up the sound, you press function and this classic extended button to reset the kit settings.
You just come back to earth,
so
effectively.
let's... exactly. That is a very nice life-friendly tool.
So I noticed there was some chordal stuff in there. That presumably was the sample aspect of this.
The
as
sample
well.
aspects. I mean, like, for example, this sound here. And the sample aspect, the UW aspect of the machine drum was introduced around in 2005, I believe.
And you get the samples in there over MIDI sample dump standard, which is kind of a, you know, that's the old, really old, because this, I guess this is pre-USB, isn't it? It's certainly
You
USB.
can say that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, at the time, USB wasn't a standard. It was maybe just appearing in the scene, if I remember correctly. And because of this, the sample transfers were quite slow. And that introduces the TM1, where that comes into play.
Was that Turbo MIDI?
Yes, Turbo MIDI. That's what it
Oh,
stands
yes, I
for.
remember. It was a standalone box that was boosting the speed of MIDI by ×10.
That's
But
right.
I guess the only reason it was built was so you could send your samples faster.
Yeah,
Into the...
that's right. It was just, you know, that was the main target, of course. But it's like a very stable and very high resolution, very fast MIDI interface for your computer. But the target, the ambition was to send your samples 10 times faster than a standard MIDI speed.
So at this point, the company's growing. You know, there's obviously people working, more people working on the
Yeah,
product.
you can say so. It was a still very, very small company at the time, but obviously there were maybe one or two more people involved and stuff like that. And yeah, so 2001 this got released without the sampling, and then 2005 there came the UW upgrade. But before that we had the mono machine. That's when it appeared.
Of course,
yes.
and we have a mono machine here,
Yes,
so we should definitely look at that.
I think so, yeah.
The thing I remember about the mono machine is the demo sequences were just amazing. Sort of ambient electro Berlin school kind of thing.
And very hard hitting ones at the same time. It was a great mixture, yes.
It's a weird looking thing though, isn't it? It kind of looks like this should be over here.
Like this, yeah. Yeah. But there's a reason behind this design, is that it was meant to be like a two-people instrument, so that somebody would have played the keys. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, right. That was the intention of it, and yeah, it's turned out to be an interesting sounding and a crazy looking instrument. And
it took the kind of the idea of the machines, separate machines. It had when it started. I think I can't remember how many synthesis engines it had, but it's had updates since then, hasn't it? And so each track would be a separate synthesizer with different voicings and different parameters or what have you. And that was the thing that was kind of quite mind-blowing, as well as the kind of the unusualness of the shape and the sort of scientific joystick and the kind of sharp aluminium kind of lines of it. It's very groundbreaking in many ways and very, very exciting. But fair to say, slightly impenetrable as a sort of non-Elektron user for the first time. But
yeah, I would agree that it's a bit difficult machine to get into because of the adventurous sound design it offers. I mean, there's a lot of depth exploration that is waiting to be explored by the user. And if you're only like scratching the surface, you may not be really impressed with what you came up with. So this is an adventurous synthesis
sort of advanced
machine.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And again, this is DSP, isn't it? So
it is DSP.
It's kind of the engineers, I guess, at Elektron were exploring whatever the DSP chips they were using and really kind of eking out some interesting stuff from it.
That's right. The mono machine was like it was planned to be a companion for the machine drum, and it was released in 2003. And then shortly the tabletop version followed up that we have right here. And
that's still current, isn't it?
This is the current
You can't get this
one.
anymore.
No, the keyboard model was only there was only 500 units built, and so it was a very small run, and to be honest, it wasn't a great success at first. People maybe didn't really dig the sound of the mono machine, but right now I know that people are really liking it.
It's interesting because it came out at a time when preset browsing was at a real height. So you get this home and you go, oh, I can't wait to get through the presets, and it doesn't work in that same way. You've got
there's no
to spend
presets.
Yeah,
You have to. For example, you have to pick up a synthesis type. You have like Superwave, which is like an analog emulation, a SID station emulation, a wavetable synthesis, which also had a drum machine, FM type of synthesis, and the magic the voice synthesis, the VO synth.
Oh yeah. Have you got anything that we could listen to with that? That was awesome.
Of course. So if we mute these tracks, so we could have a feel for this.
Pure craft work, isn't it?
And with the joystick you can like assign different.
The broken robot.
And then you have like these other tracks that you can unmute and then starts messing around with them. Let's see. It has a really nice bass tone to it.
Oh yeah,
it's very strong. And now you have the drum machine, which we can hear now.
And this really started to kind of develop the idea of parameter lock and the having the sequencer and the synthesis design, sound design, all together in the one kind of unit.
This kind of took the parameter lock feature a bit further by introducing the triggerless locks, for example. When you're editing your sequence, if you press function, you can like put these yellow steps, for example, to stop the sound. And also if you click again, you have the green one. So this, you get these different type of trigs in the sequencer to take the parameter lock further. Each of the tracks offered you a synthesis method, amplification page, a filter, effects, which are
3 LFOs as well. Wow.
Yeah, 3 LFOs, and each of the tracks had 3 LFOs and also their own delay engine, as well as the parametric equalizer. So I think the sequencer as well, and the joystick and all the other possibilities, it got quite far.
And of course you got a blinky light above every single key on the keyboard as well.
That's right. I mean, you also had like a polyphonic mode, so that's
right. I remember that was the one that I was trying to get to when I was, because we bought one for a band I was working with, and I remember I was thinking poly because of the synth engines, and yes, I remember, but it's quite, you had to get there, and I remember not remembering how to get there and thinking, how do I do that? Yeah, but it's great sounding synthesizer.
I mean, there is a very special place in my ears and my brain for the mono machine sound. I really dig it.
And I think also the effects started perhaps to really come to life, didn't they? You've got those really wide reverbs and stereo delays that really just sort of created this trippy ambience that has, follows through to, certainly the analog keys, which we just recently reviewed.
That's right. I mean, the effects were a bit different in the mono machine, that you had to sacrifice a track to have like a reverb, or let's see what other effects that it had. I don't really remember on top. Yeah, chorus, compressor ring modulation.
So that was just about managing DSP and what have you.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
Fantastic.
Yes. Yeah,
so what was next? Well, what was happening at the time, with Elektron?
Yeah, so in 2003 this was out, and then followed the UW in 2005, which we covered when we were looking at the machine drum, and then comes the 2007. This was an important year because that is the time that we released the Mark II editions of the mono machine and the machine drum. And this kind of took the business quite ahead, because
things got pretty serious then,
yeah, things got pretty serious, and the team was having more members, the company was slightly growing, and what was the major difference between the Mark I and the Mark IIs was the quality was a lot better on the Mark IIs, like the encoders, the feel, the finish, and everything else. It was like 100% perfection. And that's why I think people realized and appreciated the sound more, because people were like, could have access to it because it was slightly cheaper price. And yeah, it was a very good move for the company. And after 2007, we come to 2011, where the Octatrack made an appearance.
And that's, well, we should take a look at that.
Yes, let's take a look at that.
Okay, so this is the Octatrack. It's a slightly different sort of layout to the rest. We've got crossfader. It seems to be there's a sort of nod to the kind of DJ creative aspect to it.
Yeah.
So what is Octatrack? Because I think it's quite a deep concept, right?
Yeah, I think it's a very deep concept as well. I mean, it's an 8-track dynamic performance sampler, and each of the tracks can be time stretched and pitch shifted real time. So if you have a loop, which the BPM is 160, you can play back in 120 and it will be in sync, and you can change the BPM as you're performing that. It also has like a MIDI sequencer, so it's 8 audio and then 8 MIDI tracks, and each of these tracks can have like a different length of the sequence and also a time multiplier. It's a very strong sequencer.
So you can have all sorts of polyrhythms.
Yeah.
Right.
At different speeds. It's almost too crazy to be true. Yeah.
So I mean, Elektron are really kind of at this point where rock. I mean, this is there's some crazy kind of creative stuff going on in here, and it's all sample based, isn't it? There's not that we haven't got any synthesis engine in here, but it's still using parameter locking and all of that side of things as well, right?
Yeah, it does do that. Yes. It's just sample based. You have a compact flash card which supports up to 64 gigabytes. That's a lot of samples to take in a machine like this, I think. And what's really cool, I think, is that you can trigger different samples per step. So you can lock which samples that you want to play per step in the sequence. Just like that you do on the analog rhythm, you can parameter lock different presets on the analog keys. Yes.
Right, so but this time it's accessing sample pack. Wow.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with the scene A, scene B crossfader side of things? Because that's something that's always intrigued me.
Yeah, it's like you have the scene B and A buttons here. So let's say you want to assign something. So you hold the scene B button, okay, first of all, and then you can choose which scene that you're editing. You have 16 scenes.
Okay.
Yep. So while I'm holding that changes. And I could say, okay, when I push the crossfader, I want to change the pitch. And here we go, to this value.
Right.
I want to change the retriggering, and this, and this, and this, and the effects. I mean, this is pretty crazy, and you could do it.
Is it like almost morphing between sets of parameter locks?
Yes.
Is that right?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
This is a morphing parameter lock. And you have 16 scenes, and the scene A can have a different scene selected. This one can have a different scene selected, and you morph between. This is a pretty crazy feature.
So it's a sample playback, but it also allows you to record, sample into it as well. So it's a sort of traditional hardware sampler, but with a completely sort of different skew on it, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, you have 2 stereo inputs to sample in. You can also use it like a 4 mono inputs. So it actually works as a mixer as well, and an effect processor. Each of the tracks offers you 2 effect blocks that you can choose from various effects like filter, equalizer, phaser, comb filter, lo-fi effects, reverbs, delay. Yeah, a lot of things to be covered in here. And of course you have the parameter lock in the sequencer.
Have you got something up that we could have a quick listen to?
Yeah, sure. There's like a basic pattern here. So maybe I can like assign a different crossfader, assign it to the pitch of the first track. And then I've assigned the delays as well. Yeah. And now you can maybe like do some re-triggering on the drum sound. Yeah. And of course, everything is time stretched in real time.
So it's got a lot to offer, but also the level of, it's almost the synthesis engine is using the sample. There's a lot of stuff you could do with the samples in there as well and create some.
I mean, I don't see this machine as like a normal phrase sampler. It's more of like a sample synthesizer. Whatever sound I put in there, I can like twist it into a lot of possibilities. For example, this here, I will trigger this sound.
Anybody want to waste some time?
And then
Anybody want to waste? Anybody want to? Anybody want to? Anybody want? Anybody? 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 Anybody?
And then maybe I could assign the start point to the crossfader.
Anybody want to waste some waste some
Again, granular, sort of granular stuff. And you can use synthesis because you create very short loops. And
there we go. That's like a yeah. It becomes like a, as I said, it's a sample synthesizer.
Something that you need to be able to sit down and kind of spend some time with, and obviously you know it very well. So Elektron is growing. You know, there's more stuff happening. There's an enormous amount of more manufacture going on, but you're still building all the stuff in Sweden and putting it together, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's the same type of build quality that you would expect from Elektron. We're still hand building it in Sweden, and that's where, you know, that's where the passion comes from. You know, we just don't want to create these instruments and then ship it out. We really appreciate these machines. It's, you know, it's a very important thing for us to keep this quality.
So in terms of timeline, this is probably the last of the instruments before we start getting into analog. So this was last DSP, and then there's this whole sort of quantum shift into analog electronics.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this was released in 2011, and it took a long time to develop this machine because of the complexity. And it also received a lot of OS updates after it was released. And then we come to 2012, where we got the analog 4, 2013 analog keys, and now 2014 we have the analog rhythm. So that is the analog line.
So what are we going to look at now?
We're going to look at the analog keys and the analog 4 as well.
Awesome. Well, of course, I reviewed this quite recently, and the thing about the new sort of analog range is it's the sound, isn't it? I mean, the sound really is kind of quite special on these things.
Yeah, I agree. This sounds, I think, very special too. And it's a pretty easy synthesizer to edit. You know, you have like 6 menus that you switch between, and each of them represents a different part of the synthesis. So you have oscillator pages, filter, amp, envelope. So if you want to edit the filters, you press filter, and the knobs correspond to what you have on the screen. It's pretty easy, and you have the sequencer to parameter lock and sequence your sounds. You have like individual outputs for your tracks, USB for MIDI sync and data transfer. Yeah, it's a very complete
And of course, with the analog stuff as well, and with the analog 4, you've got CV and gate.
Yeah,
and that's so you can interface this with, you know, the other modular equipment and what have you.
That's right. I mean, you have like a dedicated CV sequence track, so that you can sequence your external gear, modular gear, and maybe feed it out back into the inputs to process it with the analog distortion, analog overdrive, and analog multimode filter as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because it seems very, very clean as well, although in fact it's in many ways more complex than some of the other stuff that's come before, the mono machine, etc. But it feels like a cleaner interface to me.
Yeah, I agree. It's a simpler approach because it is an analog synthesizer. Like digital synthesizer can be a bit more complex because of the fact that you can cram much more out of a digital system. But with the analog, you're kind of limited to the voice structure. But what sets the analog keys and also the analog 4, which is available right now, both of them, is that both of them are controlled by a digital brain. So the source is analog, but the control is digital. So you have the parameter locks, you have really fast LFOs, digital effects. I mean, it's the best of two worlds combined.
This seems to be the way that a lot of pioneering synthesis manufacturers are going as well. And obviously you've got your pure analog heads, but the fact that you can divorce the control from the sound source means that you can go in lots of directions that you couldn't go with pure analog electronics, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's what we wanted to achieve, not just with the analog keys and analog 4, but our analog line, including analog rhythm. It's we wanted to push the boundary of the analog synthesis because there is a limit to it.
Definitely. So we should have to listen to a few more patches just because it's such a sort of dreamy machine.
Yes, yeah, sure.
the concept performance mode where you can globally affect as well.
So I can affect a lot of parameters without switching between the different sections of the synthesis.
Totally ambient, man.
Yeah, it's a great machine. Yeah, and you also have the joystick to modulate your parameters, assign up to 15 parameters to the joystick. So it's like where the mono machine left off. It's the reincarnation of it. And the nice thing to mention now is it's a 4-track mono synthesizer, but also it can be played polyphonically by combining the tracks. So you could say, okay, I want track 1 to play 2 voices, and then track 2 and 3 to play 1 voices each. So it's a very flexible structure. And also there is
lightning fast patch changing as well with the
the
multi-map and that side of things. So
yeah, by assigning different presets to the sequencer, just like you do on the analog rhythm and the analog force, same thing. Yeah, it's a very interesting machine to work on, I think, yes.
So now we're here, now we're up to date. Elektron are kind of now making the analog range. I mean, where next? What's going to happen?
Well, the next step is going to be the overbridge that we announced at the Music Messe very recently. The analog series, the analog rhythm, the analog keys, and the analog 4 will get a USB connection, like a VSTI and AU application for the DAWs. So through USB, you'll be able to multi-track your tracks into your DAW, record them separately, and amongst other features as well. So you'll be able to automate certain features.
So computer integration, effectively.
Basically, it's computer integration, yes. And that, of course, is going to be a free update for all our users, which I think is a very, very cool thing to have.
So once again, if you enjoyed that, if you haven't seen Cenk's presentation of the analog rhythm, you can view that right here now. So do check it out, and don't forget to subscribe as well. Once again, thanks very much for watching.